from D&AD.
The other way around, yeah.
You were just at office.
That's interesting.
And
My brain even thinks even with like students and grads, because obviously it's different for us when we're out in the industry, we've done it, and like we're still doing things. But when you're a student grad,
from 1 p.m. to 4
it's kind of like a come up.
And it will be live on the Adobe Live channel and freelance.net/live. So, first guest is our lovely Leila today, and I was just saying you're super fun. Like we just had a chat before, and I love kicking off this way. So can we introduce you to everyone? Let's just assume that they've never met you before.
Well,
come across you.
Well, they haven't, I'm sure.
So let's go through quick introductions.
My name is Leila Fataar. I am the founder of Platform 13, which is a new type of company that was created really to answer the challenges of big brands, because everything is shifting so fast from a creative point of view, from a culture point of view. But that was created in response to having worked in-house at both Adidas and Diageo. Diageo is all the drinks brands that we all like, but we'll tell you more about that in a bit.
Definitely. We were just talking about Adidas actually, because by coincidence you lived in Germany at some
point,
which is the perfect transition into like talking a bit about your experience too. You started pretty young, right? Setting up your agency and all of that. I'm really interested in like hearing how you got started in the creative industry and what direction you took.
So first to say that I was born in South Africa, and I was born in apartheid South Africa. For a woman of color, you can imagine that was a different type of experience to grow up. But I was always surrounded by creativity and talent. Incredible people who were musicians and artists and tailors. But of course, being in South Africa, coming from the global south, you really had no access to industry, you had no access to incredible opportunities that the first world have or the West has. So just always been really motivated by that, and being able to sort of break the boundaries of what was possible, and always live in hope and possibility. I mean, I had Mandela, so of course, the best cultural leader in the world. And I think that really helped me personally. Came to London, didn't really know anyone, had 200 pounds, and I had a bald head actually, because I was going through my Sinead O'Connor phase in the 90s. And then I walked past a hairdressing salon, which I had no idea who they were, but I was just like, oh my God, I can get my hair shaved for free, because you don't want that growth thing happening, right? So walked past the salon, the phone was ringing, walked back, and I was like, your phone's ringing, you're going to be losing business. And I didn't know that I was talking to one of the owners of Tony and Guy Hairdressing.
No way.
He gave me a job on the spot. Never had an interview. And it's just really about embracing those opportunities, grabbing them when you can. If there's no plan B, what are you going to do?
But that's really right place, right time. Like I'm trying to pull
right place, right time
for like people watching, but it's like, it's almost, but at the same time.
But it's opportunistic.
Totally. Like if you hadn't taken the risk from South Africa to there, that wouldn't have happened. So.
And if I hadn't been walking past and gone, oh, that phone is ringing. And walked in, I guess it's always hard, you know, it was a bit easier, I guess, because if you don't know who you're talking to, you almost don't feel nervous.
Totally.
Because it's just an opportunity.
And that might disappear. Like
and that might disappear.
Remember you.
Exactly. So I was really lucky that way to get that first throw into this industry that was so creative. And at the time, Tony and Guy was absolutely the top of their game in the 90s. They were like the rock stars of hairdressing, so it was an incredible opportunity for me to learn everything that I know today.
Yeah, and I think London is definitely one of those special like places in the UK, but also in the world, because I've lived here and I remember people speaking to me in cafes and like reaching out, and there's such an ease for people to like have a chat and like reach out and be like, hey, that's really cool. I think most of the time people were asking me about the book I'm reading, and I really enjoyed that. Like, hey, what book is that? Oh, I've read it too, and that starts a whole conversation.
And to be honest, I feel like that's the thing about London that's so awesome. It's almost like it's embraced to be different. People like enjoy that about you. You know, it isn't. You don't feel like you have to know someone or you have to know something. You can create your own, and I think that's the thing that was really drawn me to London. Out of everywhere.
Totally. And was it hard? Like, were there things you missed from South Africa when you moved? And like, what are the things? Did you go back and like, how was this change for you starting off?
So I think for me, having come from apartheid South Africa, it's been difficult for me because I have a different experience of South Africa that says someone who just looks at it from the top and visually looks at it. I love South Africa. It's my roots. It's where I'm from. But I always felt quite uncomfortable there because for me, things like segregation by color feels really strange, or lack of opportunity. I hope things can change. I want things to change. I'm a big Africa supporter. I think it's our time. And I'm really excited about what the future can hold for our fantastic sort of like biggest continent on Earth.
I love the positivity you bring. It's just amazing. I read online that you had a family of creatives around you.
Yes.
Where does that come from? So we start also talking about your path a little bit.
Yeah. So my mom is a pattern cutter. My grandmother was a pattern cutter. My uncles are musicians. I was so lucky to be surrounded by creativity in a place where creativity wasn't seen as a viable career. But of course, having come from this kind of experience with South Africa, you had to create your own. And I feel really lucky that I was lucky to actually have a family of creatives who understood the value of the art. Because I think a lot of people within these situations don't, because they've got to get a job that's absolutely going to pay the bills, you know. There's a cultural barrier that stops people from going into creativity because it's not seen as a job. And I was lucky in that way to actually have that surrounding me all the time. So I was quite free, thankfully, to be able to know that there was a different path for me, and I grabbed it.
Totally. And so then you set up your first agency. How did you jump from like that first chat in London to like setting that up?
I was at Tony & Guy for 5 years. And what was interesting about Tony & Guy was I learned everything I knew about communications. I had no idea there was this industry. For some reason, I don't know why I didn't connect sort of advertising communications to anything. And so I had this opportunity to work with, as I said, the most incredible sort of creators, creating a completely new category, like building this category out from being really sort of stuffy hairdressing into a global multi-million-pound empire around the world that really changed culture in that situation. So I was lucky to be there. I learned from the bottom. I was the coffee girl. I was the person who went to the post office, and I loved it. In the time that I was at Tony & Guy, the internet arrived. And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I had the one computer with email, the one computer with, you know, the internet. And I loved it. Within, I guess, Tony & Guy, after 5 years, I was either going to marry into this amazing Italian family.
Oh, wow.
So it's an Italian family. And I was like, well, you know,
I didn't think that.
I'd hit my ceiling there. They were incredible, super supportive, but I wanted to go out and start what I call the first sort of like internet marketing company for the fashion industry, which was so early. There were no case studies, there was no internet, so it was just like trial and error, and I loved every part of that. Anything that feels like it's creative and you can find your own path is something that really interests me. So started Generation Net, which no longer exists, but at the time was really exciting. I actually got my first client with a company that was a sneaker company at the time in London. They had this website. We didn't know what to do with it. No one had internet. So it was just trial and error, trying to find who was out there, how we create stories around it. So, you know, I spoke to someone from Vice magazine, at the time was a magazine, got some editorial to put on the website, sent them some shoes, and we just started like working in this literally from scratch. After 2 years there, they actually asked me to do all the other communications as well. So then I twisted Generation Net into Spin Agency, my first 10-year company, which really melded online and traditional communications, marketing, PR, everything into one thing. And that was what I did for the next 10 years.
Amazing. And then I also want to have time to talk about Platform 13.
Yes.
I know this is also what you're here for.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can transition into that and what the real like mission and values are in that.
So coming after those 10 years, I closed the company. I was headhunted by Adidas when I went to Germany. Exactly. Went to Adidas and was their global PR social content director. Working on incredible projects. My first project was the re-release of Stan Smith in 2014, which was iconic, huge and iconic, and for me was so new. I'd never worked in a big corporate structure, and in a way that was really positive because I didn't have any blinkers on how it should be done, and that was helpful but also tough internally because I had to justify every single move, every single thing. I'd learned everything I knew from experience only, no formal education in communications, marketing, advertising. But Stan Smith was a great success, so we were really, really happy with that. And then after that did a lot for the next 3 years, sort of worked on loads of different collaborations and projects, etc. Decided to come back to London and was headhunted by Diageo to drinks.
The headhunting history.
The headhunting.
People look for you.
But interestingly with that, is what we'll talk about with Shift as well, is who knows if I'd even got the job if I'd applied on the website. And that's the truth of the matter, right?
Totally,
So this idea of talent without access really motivates me. And I'm like, if those kind of companies and those kind of brands would find someone like me who doesn't have formal education, has a weird name that maybe in a CV could be put in the maybe pile.
Yeah, we'll get judged.
Get judged. They're missing out on all the talent that's out there.
Totally.
You know, and that's the opportunity. And that's where Platform 13 was born out of. This idea of seeing the gaps that were between big brands and their agencies and understanding where that cultural shifts weren't really happening and what the opportunities could be. So I came out after 5 years of being in corporate and started a new type of company, a super progressive company where we curate the teams according to the category, the community and the culture. Those people are in the input and ideation stage and decision-making stage, so the output is always resonant with whoever we're trying to talk to.
So you're embracing it from the beginning and then
always,
whatever's going to come out
always, exactly. Because anything coming out is already resonating because it's made by the people with the lived experience and you can't lose. You can't lose.
So you really saw that gap and opportunity to like
100%.
have that kind of bridge. You talked about like having a lot of like companies saying they're doing X and they're making that change. And, like what is the state of that today, like in terms of radically transforming companies? Like I know you're contributing to that with Platform 13, but did you see improvement in the last years or?
I mean, we started well in 2020. We were like, okay, this could actually be, you know, the moment. I feel like we've gone a bit backwards recently. I don't know if you agree. Which is a shame because I feel like there was a real moment there, was a real opportunity there. You know, I'm quite opportunistic, as I said. And I feel like people are like confusing D&I with the craft of work and with culture. And these are different things. Diversity is there. We are here. We are out here. It's the inclusion that's the problem at the moment. And the fact that actually you don't have to either be D&I or creative. People are intersectional. You can actually do both. I have a 25-year body of work that's got nothing to do with my color. And it's got nothing to do with my background. And so I think just because the pendulum swung to go, oh, here, let's typecast people into something, it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of frustrating, and the work needs to show itself.
I think the implementation is the question.
You know,
that's always that.
So I think hopefully there is, you know, the want to do different things, but I think there's still a way to go, to be honest.
Totally. And I also spotted on your website, Platform 13, that you had a report called A Cultural State of Mind.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about culture? I think we're like getting there also with what we're saying.
Sort of, And I think a cultural state of mind is basically when I've done any of my projects and now that I'm, you know, 25 years into it, I understand that actually my starting point has always been culture first. But I didn't recognize that before. It was just how I did things. What is happening in the world that your brand or company makes sense for what's happening, not just what are they doing to talk about a new feature. And how does it make sense in the world? And what does that mean for the people who are buying your product? How can you add value to their life? So a bit of a different role. Doesn't mean that it's instead of a brand first approach. It actually is additive. They can sit next to each other really, really well, and I feel like that's where you could win. So this cultural state of mind is just this ability to understand and sort of read and analyze shifts that are happening in culture that affect creativity, but also what makes sense for a brand.
And I think that's reflective for Adobe as well, and like all these companies, like everything you're saying rings true
of
to me.
Course.
In terms of, like, we're selling product, we're selling software, but like what is the value of that for people in culture?
That's it. And that's really, it's not rocket science.
No, it's not.
It's not rocket science. So, you know, it shouldn't be anything new, but I just think it will take a fundamental shift for businesses and the industry to understand the value of that. And I think, you know, coming into a new world where there's privacy issues, AI, how are you going to keep yourself relevant? Cultural relevance. It's got to be a business growth driver.
I love the summary. Like if we had to cut this little video afterwards, we'll definitely
it's going to be that.
Exactly.
Great.
Moment.
Perfect. Okay, perfect.
But I did want to, you mentioned the word shift just now. So I want to go back to also D&AD shift, and I think that brings in some of the themes you were talking about, culture as well, and the gap where, you know, bringing creatives and spotting creatives and talent is really super important right now.
I mean, it goes back to my motivation, which I talked about. There is so much talent out there. And unfortunately, because of systemic issues, because of cultural barriers, political issues, they don't have opportunity, first of all, to go to universities and learn, access to the industry. Their uncle doesn't work in a big corporate company, they can get them in. You know, these are the barriers that can hold talent down, and Shift is about identifying that and enabling those, empowering those people by offering a night school that's free, that's industry-led for self-taught creatives. Self-taught creatives are the key. You cannot come in if you've got a degree in it. And it's really important because D&AD has the influence, has the power with the industry to make sure that it doesn't only shift those skills from like that kind of self-taught talent to career skills, but also can shift the industry by challenging them on how they hire people, where they find talent. So it's a bit of all in one, and we're super excited to be pushing this kind of shift creativity piece that we're launching here actually.
It's amazing. I know,
at D&AD.
Yeah, like everyone here is really proud of it when you talk to people from D&AD. And I want to mention like how the program actually runs. So if anyone watching wants to participate or try and like be part of this, so it's in several cities, right? Like how can someone like join and you know, candidate?
So it's super simple. On the website, and I know you're going to put the website address on, put the link in. You're able to apply in London, New York, Sydney, Berlin and Hamburg we're doing, so Germany we call it because it's a double city situation, and soon Sao Paulo as well. London is live for applications at the moment until the 15th of May, so get applying as soon as you can. You can enter with anything. You can enter with a poem, you can enter with a photo. It's raw talent we're looking for. It's self-taught creatives. We're not expecting a fully polished PDF. It's about that talent. So apply 15th of May for London. And for the rest of them, just keep put your email in for updates, which is on the website as well.
Awesome. I put it in the chat, so if you're tuning in, we're on behance.net/live, and that's where the link is.
Yes.
We have a couple people who said hi too, so I do want to say hi to Karina, Oliver, Doris, everyone who's watching, Sean, Tim who's at home and can join today, Sandrine. Yeah, just tons of people who said hi.
Great.
We have a little bit of time, so I do want to mention a couple more things about Shift, if you did open the link. How long does the program actually last? I think you mentioned, and it's been going for a while, right? Like 7 years?
So the London one was launched 7 years ago, so this is not a new thing. D&AD have been pushing this forward for a long time. It's a night school over 4 to 5 months. So it works around your actual job. If you have one at a time, it's industry led. You have people who are really passionate about it from the industry, sharing those skills, sharing that knowledge. You then get live briefs from big brands like Adidas, Diageo, both my ex-employees really, but not because of this.
Familiar faces,
Spotify, etc. And so you work on these live briefs with professionals. You'll then have a showcase at the end of the course, which shows that the work from all those briefs. The showcase, we invite the industry down, especially recruiters, just to come and see, and hopefully we can push and shift that industry forward as well to sort of get talent from different places as well. So lots more news coming up on Shift as well coming forward that I can't say yet, but keep yourself up to date. Keep yourself up to date.
And I do want to say, you mentioned recruiters, but actually a really high percentage of those people then get hired too. So what happens after Shift? Like those people do get hired and have a much higher chance of becoming part of these companies.
They also have a network as well. So remember, creativity is also about community. And I think that that's really important. So we have this alumni network, which is great. And there's loads of people, I think up to 70% actually get into the creative industry, whether they're within the traditional industry or even starting their own thing as well. So it gives you those skills. It absolutely gives you, that knowledge that you need, because people like us, people who haven't had that formal education, anything to give us more information about how to navigate the system positively, I think is a great thing. It's super, super exciting.
Talking about community, and just the last question for me today with you is, what are you excited for? You're at D&AD, we're here today and tomorrow. And what are you going to be doing? And are you going to be walking around? I'll probably spot you somewhere.
I hope so. We can hang out together. I'm actually doing a keynote today, which is really exciting. I'm a bit nervous.
Oh no, but you can do this.
I know. Let's see. But tomorrow, actually super interesting. We've got 2 people. I'm running a panel for shift creativity.
Nice.
And we are featuring, because we've got a lot of information about the West. We know what's happening in London, New York, Germany, but there's a lot of information around those barriers for First Nations people in Sydney, for the Global South of Sao Paulo, and we have 2 of our partners coming to talk to me to tell me all about how to fix the system, especially for these really underrepresented people, and I'm so excited to speak to them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. So hopefully you can come to that one.
Definitely.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah,
and you're going to be on the other side of like actually asking questions.
I know, which is going to be weird for me. I'm going to be putting my bits in though. Yeah, I'm going to have to learn some from you.
Curious questions you have, like throw them in.
Throw them in. No, they are
so
amazing.
Much. It's been amazing chatting to you. Like, you're so positive and fun, and that was a perfect session to get started. So
cool. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be right back. Let me check what we have on the schedule. Actually, there's someone coming up. Kwame is going to be with us right now in about 10 minutes. We'll have a quick break, change over, and then get to the next session. See you in a bit, everyone.
Bye.